So we finally get to this wonderful moment where Hesiod himself gets his poetic mission, or you might say commission, from the Muses. And there's so many things, Natasha, that you and I can say about this, but maybe I'll start with a point that I made with reference to the earlier text that we have examined, something that happens actually at a later point in the logical sequence of the Theogony, but I have presented our readers with that part earlier, and that is the picture of the ideal king. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to have our readers see that first before they see the actual conferral of the scepter on Hesiod, because there was this curious missing piece in that description of the ideal king. He seemed to be described in all the ways you would expect an ideal king to be described, except that he wasn't carrying a scepter. Mm-hmm. It's just not mentioned. And then we see now, I think, why it wasn't mentioned, because Hesiod already has the scepter. And that means that Hesiod, when he speaks, has the authority of a king when he speaks, simply by virtue of holding the scepter that the Muses gave him.
Wow, so king really needs Hesiodic poetry to become fully royal.
Royal and fully empowered and have the authority that can derive from Zeus himself. Mm-hmm. Camilla and I were having a conversation about the first 10 verses of the Works and Days. In the first 10 lines of the Hesiodic Works and Days, it's clear that Zeus is the model for making a judgment. Mm-hmm. And when he makes a judgment, it is automatically justice. Mm-hmm. But in our earthly existence, judgments can be off. Uh-huh. They can be crooked. They have to be adjusted. They have to be redefined. They have to be straightened out. And it's a long, laborious process that we today call the law with a capital L. And here we see Hesiod, the shepherd, being given that scepter, which is on the way to that kind of authorization.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I'm thinking as a, in a way of a contrast about this scene in the beginning of the Iliad,
yes,
when Achilles is first pronouncing his very authoritative annotation of his wrath, and then just hurls his scepter.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to look at that and examine it with this text already in mind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, beautiful! I see.
So no, I really look forward to that. And you notice that the Muses are somewhat abusive of Hesiod at the beginning, base objects of reproach, mere bellies. But you and I know that there are other myths about other poets who get their poetic mission, who in a similar way encounter the Muses. And first there's a round of verbal insults, and only then is the mission authorized.
Why is that, do you think?
I think it's an initiation. Uh-huh. So it's a way of testing the moral character of the person who is going to be telling these very important things about what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly a way of talking that even the Homeric epics do not adopt. Homeric poetry doesn't say what's right and wrong. Mm-hmm. Ordinarily. It may occasionally do so by way of a simile. But in Hesiodic poetry, it's calling the shots every time, saying what's right and what's wrong. And when he gets the scepter, he gets to perform a theogony. Mm-hmm. And a theogony will become the theogony for us, of course.
Do you want to say anything about the genuine things and deceptive things which look like genuine things?
Yes, I do. So, Natasha, let's have a look at what the Muses will teach Hesiod. They'll teach him the know-how of distinguishing what are things that look like genuine things and what are true things. And I've worked on this a great deal. I know you have worked on this a great deal. It's very hard to summarize, but maybe one way to do it is to think of the fact that Alētheia, this adjective, is etymologically a negativized concept, and negativizations can be a way of absolutizing. So, for example, if I say memorable, that means that I may or may not remember something. If I say unforgettable, it means I absolutely remember it. Similarly here, Alētheia etymologically means unforgettable. Therefore, it's absolute, and therefore whatever truth is unforgettable must be contrasted with things that only look like genuine things. And in other poetic traditions, the words that are used to express the idea of genuine are actually absolutized in their own locale. So this is a relative thing. In some poetic traditions, one thing is absolutized. In other poetic traditions, something else is absolutized. Clearly, the idea of an etymos, something, is not necessarily absolute in this poetry, but it may be in other poetry.
So there are many truths, but every given poetic tradition is holding one as something absolute.
Yes, that's beautiful.